New Jersey's back bays are the first place anglers look to start their season. As March rolls in, the water is still cold and the bite can be hit or miss. Striped bass and white perch are the main targets, setting the stage for the months ahead. On this trip, I tried to get on that early season bite, but was quickly reminded of the struggle that March fishing can bring. It feels good to be back. Just stopped at Wawa, picked up some stuff for the day. I'm feeling a little under the weather, but that's not gonna stop us from fishing. Today we're gonna be doing some back bay fishing for striped bass and white perch, and hoping it's gonna be a good way to kick off the season, so let's get started. Because this is my first outing of the season, my goal for the day is to catch at least one fish. This is my first fishing session after the off season, so I'm really just looking to get out there and get a line tight. Obviously a striped bass would be the optimal outcome, but I'm gonna try to fish for some white perch too and hopefully get on some of those. Just stopped at Fisherman's Headquarters, got 1.5 dozen bloodworms. Hopefully that's enough to get us on some fish. Well, I finally got to my first spot to fish. It took me about an hour to find one. I checked on Google Maps for fishing spots to try something new for the new year, and the first one I got to was actually private property. So again, if you're looking for spots on Google, you gotta show up to them and make sure you're able to fish them. The second spot was a bit too crowded, and the third spot, same thing, pretty crowded. So I'm here at a new one and hoping that this is the place to be. All right, so now I'm finally out of the spot. I've got one rod set up over here, and then I've got another rod set up over there. So this rod, actually, that rod holder is broken. So I needed to find a place that was kind of soft sand to set that in. And this over here is just like kind of hard mud. So that's what we're working with right now. I'm gonna get loaded up with some bloodworms and get some lines out there. So on one rod, I'm kind of using it more as like a target for striper. And with that, I've got a high-low rig with 4/0 circle hooks. On the other rod, I've got a Sabiki rig with size 4 hooks, and that's what I'm gonna use more for perch. Both of these have bank sinkers in the 1 to 2 ounce range. So that's really all you need for some back bay fishing. You can be pretty light. The current's never really that rough. So yeah, moral of the story is just keep it simple and keep it light. All right, as you can see, we got the mighty spring bait, the bloodworm, and we're gonna get these on the hooks and get them out there. This is what a bloodworm looks like. They've got kind of these hairy follicles on the side, and then I don't want to get it to do it, but they have a little mouth that shoots out of the front end of them. It's got little fangs on it, and those fangs actually do have a little bit of venom in them, and they can get you, so you really got to be careful with them. And just like a regular night crawler or any kind of freshwater worm that you'd use, I just string it on the hook a few times. And this one I accidentally cut in half, so I'm going to throw the second half on it in a second. Here we go, here's that second half. So you load it up like that, and then you could put another one on here. I'm going to just start with one for now. These things are expensive. I don't want to waste too much money. So to keep it on, you can take some of this clam tie that you'd use for stringing some clam, or really any kind of other bait on the hook, and then just wrap it around the top end a few times, and this will keep it alive. Just pull that right off, it's cinched down. This will keep it alive and on the hook. If a little perch or anything come and try to bite it, you can keep it on there for the striped bass that might come by. Something I noticed from walking over this bridge before was that these sides are generally pretty shallow, and there is one channel which goes through the middle, which they allow boats to go through, which is deeper. So we're going to try to cast into that little deeper zone and hope that that provides some fish. And there we go. We're out there. We're just going to drop this in the rod holder, tighten up the line a little bit, and slightly loosen the drag, maybe 3 turns. And now we got one rod set up, so we're going to go and set up the perch rod next. So on this rod, we got a little bit of a different situation going on. I've got a Sabiki rig with size 4 hooks. So a Sabiki rig basically has multiple hooks like this, and they're small scale. Sometimes they have these little flashy pieces of what they call fish skin on them. So I chop up some bloodworms and put them on each hook and then throw it out there. So excuse the sniffling. Like I said before, I'm not feeling great, but I'm just glad to be out here. You can either loop it on like I did with the last one, or you can take the worm and string it kind of through the middle of itself and up onto the hook. There you go. And then I'll just do one more loop on it just for good measure. There we go. And just let it dangle like that. All right, this rod just got a few taps. Is it still on? Yeah, there he is. All right, first fish of the day. Nice, on the Sabiki. This is what I had a feeling would catch more fish, just because I have a feeling there's more perch than stripe around. Wow, that is a pretty big freaking perch. Holy smokes. All right, here we go. A nice first fish of the day. We got this nice perch right here. This is a pretty decent sized one. So I'm actually gonna keep some of these today. So I'm gonna throw it on a stringer. So this is a stringer. If you're not familiar with how to use it, you take one end, which is the sharp end, you put it through their gills and through the mouth, and then string it all the way through till you come to this little kind of rounded end. Then you're gonna put the spiked end through the rounded end, and it's gonna cinch up right on their gills, just like that. And then you throw the fish in the water, keep it fresh, and you put the stake in the ground so that the fish can't go anywhere. If you haven't seen my back bay fishing tutorial video, you can check it out up here. I'll link it there. But in that video, I'm kind of going over more essential tips for fishing the back bay in the early season. One thing of note though, and why this spot is kind of a good spot, is because we've got structure in the form of a bridge, and this is all just a muddy flat. So the muddy flats are what heat up fastest in the early season, and that's where the fish are gonna congregate because they're looking for that warmer water. So you've got the mix of structure and warmer water, and you've got yourself fish. So now it's more a question of, was that just luck, or is there a little school of perch sitting around there? I'm hoping that it's a little school. But if it was just luck, like I said, we got one fish for dinner. I was hoping to bring enough home for myself and my girlfriend, but we'll see if it's just dinner for one tonight. It's good to check your bait like every 20 minutes or so. Just reeled this back in, and there's 2 pieces of bloodworm missing, so that means we are getting bites. And it's good to refresh it too, get that blood nice and fresh in the water. All right, that other rod's going. We're gonna wait on the bigger rod. Whoa, all right. It's a pretty big strike. Oh, I don't think it's still there. Again, in the same spot. So instead of leaving this rod in the rod holder with the Sabiki rig, I decided to hold it because I've been getting bites here and there, but I just can't get to the rod fast enough. I was playing around with the drone and I got a bite. I just want to be a little more attentive and hope that I can get on another fish. Once again, had a fish on here, and just couldn't get here in time. I was casting out the other rod, put the other one down for a second. Just not on top of my game. Must have been a long winter. No bites for a little bit, but I think I'm gonna end my day by casting from on top of the bridge versus down below where I just was. Who knows, might just be able to get us a better angle, and I'll also be closer to my car to finish the day. I just casted right into a pot of what I see flashing bait. Wow, there's tons of it. It's all along here. Just tons of bait fish. Not exactly the day that I was hoping for, but we did manage to land one fish, which was our goal for the day. So I was successful in that regard. I honestly think that if I got to this spot a little earlier, I would have had more time to fish, and I maybe would have put more fish on the board. Also, I did miss like 2 or 3 bites, so we could have had at least 2 or 3 more fish. However, I wasn't really being like attentive to my rods. I wasn't really paying attention at some times and wasn't able to get to the rods quick enough. But with that said, a few learning experiences, and really that's all you can hope for in a fishing session, is that you learn something new. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Maybe I'll come out and fish a little more. But for right now, I'm cold, I'm wet, so it's time to go home. We're headed out for day 2 of fishing. I'm headed back to that same spot as yesterday, and I'm gonna try to get a few more perch on the board. I'm gonna kind of focus more on perch than I am striper, but we'll see what happens. I've got about like 2-ish hours at most to fish, so hopefully within that time we can land some fish. It's crazy how without all that fog and stuff, it's just such a much more pleasant day today to be out here fishing. My waders are still wet from yesterday, but the visibility is cleared up like crazy. I can see so much more of the surrounding area, and it's really so beautiful. So just very grateful to be out here and feeling confident. Hopefully that doesn't get the best of me, but something I forgot to mention yesterday, which is pretty crucial for fishing this time of year, is that the last time I checked the water temperature, it was about 43 degrees, which is pretty cold. So we're working with cold water, means we're working with slow fish. The good thing though, is that the tide should be going out soon, so it'll bring that warmer water in, and hopefully that helps us out a little bit. So we'll see, we'll do the best we can do. Yesterday, this area right here was not even filled with water. It was just all shallow. So that's how you know it's high tide. And it is the peak right now, the high tide. So we're gonna be working with some outgoing water. Here's how to visualize why the outgoing tide brings warmer waters. The right side of your screen leads to the back of the river, and the left side leads to the ocean. The ocean water is colder than the shallower back bay water that heats up quicker. On the incoming tide, the colder ocean water sweeps in. However, on the outgoing tide, that warmer water from the back bay draws out, which is what can get the fish more active. When it's high winds like this, it's kind of hard to tell when you get a bite just because the rods are constantly shaking all the time. So I've had a couple of that happen so far, and I don't think there's been any bites yet. So it's been about 5-10 minutes though. We've got plenty of time ahead of us. All right, well, whatever that was just took my top hook. That sucks. So this rod has not gone off at all. I've casted it kind of towards the middle of that channel, and this rod just went off that one time, and whatever it was just took my hook. It broke the top of the Sabiki rig off, so must have been a little stronger than a perch, who knows? Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to call it a day. No bites other than that one that took my hook with it. I actually ran out of bloodworms too. You do want to replace your bloodworms like every 20 minutes. You don't want to leave them out there for too long and just let them dry up in the salt water. So I ran through the rest of the bloodworms that I had from yesterday. And with these winds cranking the way they were, it just made it so much colder today than it actually was, and kind of made it unpleasant to be out there. Anyway, we're gonna take the one fish that we did catch, and we're gonna go home and cook it up and make the most of this. I've got a simple but killer quesadilla recipe to turn this perch into. First, I filleted the fish and cut it into bite-sized pieces. Then I hit it with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and my secret weapon, chili lime seasoning. Give it a good toss to coat. Next, I popped it in the air fryer for 7 minutes on high to get that perfect crisp. While that's cooking, I sliced up 2 jalapenos and diced an onion. Got the pan hot with some olive oil, then let those veggies sizzle. For the tortillas, I went burrito size. Coated one side with melted butter and threw it butter side down on the pan. Layered on some Cholula cheese, followed by the veggies, then the crispy fish, and topped it with more cheese. Then threw that second tortilla on top, and well, hopefully you can flip it better than I did. Slice it up, and boom, you've got yourself a perchadilla. All right, so here we got our perchadilla, perch quesadilla, and I got some Taco Bell hot sauce here too. It's still pretty hot, but we're gonna give it a shot and see how it tastes. It's good. Not sure how much perch I got in that, so let's take one more bite. The air fried perch is really good. I love that chili lime seasoning. It just goes so well with everything, especially like Mexican food too. I wanted to do something a little different than some fish tacos, so figured a quesadilla was different enough. White perch I feel like is also really slept on as an eating fish. It's really good, And if you can catch a handful, you'll have yourself a pretty nice meal. Yeah, I'm gonna keep chowing down on this and I'll catch you at the outro.
Even though the fishing wasn't on fire, it still felt great to get back out there for the first time this season. March fishing can be slow, but it's only the beginning of the action that lies ahead. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you sticking around till the end. I'm working on taking these videos to the next level and stepping things up in 2025, so I really hope you enjoyed it. I also hope you learned something along the way, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.